So, hey, how's everyone? And dinner? Hey, okay. Message or keep your phone on silent. Reply messages. Okay. So today is lesson number 4. Lesson number 4 has no lecture slides if you went to the learning resources. So you might be wondering what's happening, no lecture slides. Oh, because it's full practical. So for the next 3 hours or 2 hours 45 minutes, we're doing everything in Eclipse. Sorry, is that mine? So we'll be doing everything in Eclipse, and we'll go through implementing your web service, of course, step-by-step guide. I have my screen recorder ready, so I'm recording my screen with voice, and then later tonight, the moment I get home, I can upload the screen record. Okay, so what we will be doing today, if you go to the learning resources under topic 4, web services implementation, so the note there, 100% lab session. So we'll be working through the steps of creating a basic Java REST API. So using some libraries like Java Jersey, Jackson, Maven, dependency management. Okay, so you will create something from scratch along the way. We'll guide you along the way, and then you can actually see it work. Of course, there's no database for this round, but I need to really go through the exercise and actually coding something. So here you have 3 files. First of all, there's a source code for today's web service implementation. You can download the zip file for reference later. Okay, which may change depending what I'm going to do later on. Practical question, of course, so the actual question here, as well as a JSON code here. So download these 3 files to your folder, and then we'll start from there. So let's see what we're gonna do. What else do I have here? Maybe there should be a text document. Of course. So there is a PowerPoint file. Okay. See, this should be just purely on the coding. Okay, so there is a PowerPoint file you can download as well. Mainly is screenshots telling you what you're going to do next. Okay, so you can use this PowerPoint file as a visual step-by-step guide which we'll do along the way. Um, and then you use it to reinforce your skills later on. Okay. So there'll be some basic steps when you're creating your first REST API in Java, especially in Eclipse, specifically only for Java Eclipse. Okay. So quickly check. Everyone have your Eclipse ready? Glassfish tools ready? Server ready? Okay. All right. So then let's get started. Okay. Please bear in mind that as I go along the way, I might change the actual code compared to what's in the polymorph. It is never really consistently the same for every class. Okay. So hello. Okay. So first thing, launch your Eclipse. We're gonna start going through the process of creating a project in Eclipse. Okay, so if you started Eclipse already, look around your perspective. We call this generally a perspective. So perspective basically gives you a view like how do I want to look at my project. Example in this case, currently I'm in certain perspective. Let's see. Let's say so if you go to Window, click on that, click on perspective, and open perspective. You can have a few standard perspectives that they will provide you. Most of the time you'll be using this one called Java, okay, which is very much what you see here. I change Java. Okay. So in the Java perspective, they will open a couple of windows or tools. So like the left side is always Package Explorer, which is when you say package, it will be your projects. So every project would be an individual item here like this. Okay. At the bottom of this, if you have Git, yep, it will show you the Git repositories. So the center area is where actual coding, where you type the codes will happen. Sometimes the browser window also might appear in here. On the bottom of this will typically be the servers tab. And on the right hand side are generally things to do like tasks. So you can actually organize what you want to do by creating tasks in here. Like, oh, I need to do something and all that. So it might link up with your other like project management software tools and such. Okay. So but in general, we may not be using this panel here. So I can collapse this. Now if you see the panel on the top, there's a minimize and maximize button. If you do minimize, you just hide the panel somewhere else. Okay, just give you more room for coding. Okay. So the other perspective that will be interesting is when you're doing debugging, which I showed you before. So that is called the debug perspective, the one with literally a bug, a beetle. Okay. So in the debug perspective, it's very different. Instead of looking at your source code, the files or projects, you switch on to a debug window, variables to see what is actually happening in your code. Then a console and a line here that shows you a lot of messages that come from your code when you're running it. So this is generally the debug mode. Now to quickly switch between the different perspectives, you can look at your top right hand corner. So some of these icons here, if you mouse over, it can show you what you can do, like open a perspective. This next icon here that says Java EE, the two yellow boxes and the one red dot. So that will go back to the previous perspective, similar to this. Okay. And if you have Java, it'll be like that. So typically, okay, so our modus operandi, which is our standard way of working, will always be on the Java EE view, the first icon here. So you can see your code, your projects, your code area, and your servers. Okay. So how do you start a project in Eclipse? So in this version of Eclipse, which is for web development, so the project explorer will right click on this area, right click here, then you get a couple options. So we'll click on look at the mouse over the new, you'll see a number of options here. So for first one, it being a project with a ... ellipse, it means you can choose this and then choose the other options beyond that screen, or they give you some shortcuts, which are common projects that you do in Eclipse Java EE. So the type of project that we will do for your REST services will be called a dynamic web project. So choose the dynamic web project option, click that. So now it asks you about your dynamic web project, like, oh, what will you be, what will you name it? What will the target runtime be? What kind of server will you put it on? okay, and certain configuration. So on this first screen, important thing is to name your project. Okay, so project I'm going to do. Okay, I shouldn't do taxi because that's your assignment, right? Yes, for I should do taxi, I should do taxi. Okay, okay, so maybe I just do weather, right? So weather, so I call it weather API. Okay, so I'm going to name this project weather API. Project location, it will usually set a default location. If you notice where exactly it will be stored, look at the location here. For Windows, it will be C drive users, documents, work, somewhere there. It will choose a location. You don't need to worry about where exactly it's stored. Okay. The rest of the options, leave it as it is, like target runtime, Glassfish 4, dynamic web module version 3.1, configuration, default configuration for Glassfish 4, don't need to change that. Don't touch the other stuff, click next. Okay, so now he'll ask you configure the project for building a Java application, which basically means where are your source folders or how you want to make your source folders. Now you can leave it as it is, source, which is where you're gonna literally a folder called source, src, to put all the Java codes. Default output, build classes, leave it as that. Don't need to change anything. Click next. So here we'll talk about the web module. So what is the web module? The web module later you will see it in the Glassfish server, like how do you identify your app. So in this case, if I call my project weather API, naturally you take the name and put it inside context root. So which means later on when I access this project in Glassfish, it will be slash weather API first, then followed by something else. So this is my so-called web module. There is a content directory called web content. Okay, so web content in this case, now because dynamic web projects, it takes two forms. Either it's a website, like you're making a website kind of thing, or you're making a web service. So it doesn't know which one you're gonna create. So it'll assume that you're gonna make a website. So therefore it has this web content, which if you're actually gonna make a website and not create a REST service, you can put HTML file, JavaScript, CSS, and stuff inside. So like a website. But in this case, not. Now there's a checkbox here that says generate web XML deployment descriptor. Okay, so you need this guy. Check that. Okay, so the descriptor basically is information describing your project that is to be deployed, which means that this weather API will also appear in that deployment descriptor. If you have this missing, you'll be a little bit troublesome to have it appear in Glassfish. Okay, so set this up accordingly. Make sure to check the box here. Click finish. So when you click finish, it will actually appear on your left side. Project Explorer, I have my weather API. Now if you click on the chevron on the corner, okay, oh, it's slow. Okay, so you can expand it and see what it has created for you. Okay. Okay, so if you open up, you can later on you see there's a source folder like your Java classes. There's also a web content, web content. You open that, you can see a web INF. So wait for my computer to wake up. Yeah, hang 住了。Oops, not responding. Never mind, cue that first. So go to slides. Where were we just now? I think we were here. Okay. We were here. We were here. And yes, so do this next. Okay. So based on the slides, should be at slide 9. Okay, so the API here, let me expand if it wakes up. Okay, so if you expand on weather API, you can see a couple of things. So there's this deployment descriptor, which you remember just now, generate web deployment descriptor. So this will actually appear there. Where would you put your code? As Java resources source. Okay, so the source folder here is where you're going to put all your codes and your packages, namespaces. There's the libraries. If you expand that, you see some of the built-in libraries that Java throw in. For example, Glassfish, because we're going to use Glassfish. There's JRE system runtime library. Now there's also oddly some JavaScript resources which you will not actually use because you're not building a website. Okay, the build folder will contain the compiled Java files. Now the web content folder, if you expand this, you'll see two folders called meta INF and web INF. Okay, now if you go to web INF, you will see two XML files that are very important. One is called the web XML. Open that, show you. So the web XML is where we said just now, I want to generate a deployment descriptor, right? Okay, so if you open it now, you will see that, okay, there's a display name called weather API and a whole bunch of this thing called welcome file list. Now the welcome file lists are applicable for a website, not for a web service. So unless you want to make a website in the middle of a web service, you may want to use this, but probably not. Okay, so later I'll show you what will change in here. Now if you double click on the Glassfish web XML, this will tell you that your context root of your application exists in this path, weather API. So that's why when you later deploy this to Glassfish, you'll be localhost the port slash weather API. Okay, so this is the first part of how you identify your application in Glassfish. So now this is still not a web service project yet. Okay, so we can convert it to web service project. But something that we'll do first, if you look at the PowerPoint file, so we're going to convert this to a Maven project. So first thought in your mind is Maven project equal to web service project? No. So Maven project basically what it does is that it will download necessary libraries for your project. If you don't use Maven, what happens is that if you need to have a library inside here, and you drag the library physically into the project itself under libraries folder. So let's say I need to use a library for web services, Jersey. I want to use a library for converting JSON data. I need to use a library to connect to the database. I need to drag the Java file into this libraries section. Then it will appear there. So that is manually managing your dependencies. So what I'll teach you when you convert to a Maven project, you actually pull the resources from another website. So there's a website called Maven. Okay, so Maven repository, Apache Maven. Okay, generally called Maven repository. So it's called Maven repository, mvnrepository.com. So what does it have? So basically they are a website that hosts a lot of libraries that you might use in your projects. And contributors who create the libraries will also update their files in this site so that you always get the latest version. But you can also always choose an older version to use. Sometimes you have compatibility issues, so you might want to say, I don't want to use the latest MySQL, I want to use a 5.1 version connector or earlier version. I can find it here. So don't need to go up and down hunting for a right library and worry that I might download a virus. This place will have proper libraries there. Okay. So how do we convert this to a Maven? So right click on the project. Okay. Scroll down to the configure. So the configure option you have right at the bottom, convert to Maven project. Click on that option. So when you convert this to a Maven project, you'll ask you to create a POM, descriptor. So POM is basically a XML file that will list down all the libraries you need. So instead of dragging your libraries in and then maybe sometimes you don't need a library, you forgot to drag it out, you can actually use this descriptor file to manage it. You don't need to change anything here, just click finish. So you will automatically generate a POM. Then later I'll show you how we actually pull all those libraries you need for your web service. So once you created a POM, you get this screen. that you have talk a bit about what you have in your project. Okay, same time you can start downloading stuff. If you notice on the bottom right corner, yep, it starts doing a lot of weird things, downloading, building workspace and such. Okay, so let's go to click on the tab here called dependencies. So in the dependencies is a place where you say if I want a library, I can add it in here. Then later on, I can remove it from this place. So what is interesting about the libraries is that sometimes somebody create a library, but they happen to have also dependencies on other library. So let's say I created a utility that will do image compression and image compression and such like that. So I decided to use my library, but at the same time, I also depend on other libraries. Okay, so what happens is that if you normally pull in a library from somebody, you also need to pull in their dependencies or their other libraries that they use. But how would you know what exactly you need? So in the past, we have always had this issue of, hey, I need this library, but then behind this library, there's actually 10 or other libraries that I want to need to include as well. But sometimes I miss one out and I can compile the whole program. So Maven its purpose is to solve that problem by having this kind of dependency management. So all I need to do is I need this one library, whether that library has other stuff that I need, Maven will handle it for me. Okay, so we convert it into a Maven project, right? Okay, so now we start pulling some dependencies. So if you go to slide 11 in your PowerPoint, now so this is one way to add files. Very rough because you need to look at the XML code. Okay, so there is a nicer way to do this. Okay, so let's just focus on what we have here. So in this POM file, what we are trying to do, or trying to achieve here is that we're trying to add two libraries. One is called org glassfish jersey core. The other is also from org glassfish jersey containers. So here we are simply trying to add two libraries by saying that, oh, I want this library at this version, that library at that version. Okay. Now if you edit the XML, if you really edit the XML, how do we do this? I come into my POM XML, I go to the last tab called POM XML, click that. Then I get this XML layout that I need to edit. Okay. If it's too much, like too confusing, and like you're scared that I might forget to, I make a syntax error here, like forgetting to close the less than or more than sign. Okay, no worries. Come back to dependencies. So to add the two libraries you need, click on the add button. Okay, so you ask you for a few questions. The one in star means, the one with the asterisk means they are compulsory questions, like group ID, artifact ID. So what is group ID, artifact ID? Okay, come back to the PowerPoint. The first item here, notice is fall under the XML element here, group ID. This is the group ID. So the group ID basically is like a package ID. Okay, so that's the first thing I need to fill in. Second thing, ask me for artifact ID. Okay, this artifact ID, which basically is a nice name for your library. First thing is called the Jersey server. Okay, and then finally the version. So version, enter 2.20. Okay, then just click OK. So that's one library in. Now if you want to see where it's affected, click on POM XML. Scroll down, you see that it's there. So this is actually the same thing as editing XML, except that you have a nicer user interface to do this. So you won't make mistakes like forgetting to close the XML element and such. So second library we need to include is the Jersey container servlet. Okay, so same thing, copy the group ID over, followed by the artifact ID. Okay, so by the way, the version where did I get it from? Here, 2.20. Now, there may be other versions that you may encounter, like let's say there's a 2.23, 2.3, or 2.5. Okay, so general rule of thumb is in versioning, you have this 2 point something, right? So the first number we call it the major version. Okay, so like version 1 to 2 is will have major differences. The second number behind that we call the minor version. Okay, so the rule of thumb is that if I'm using a 2.2 and I know that now there's a 2.3 available, usually if I go to 2.3, there shouldn't be major upsets to my program because it's a minor version. So minor version, what they do is they do bug fixing, optimization, and some minor improvement that do not break your code. But if you say I'm changing from a version 2 to a version 3, might introduce some errors to your program because normally they will have, they call it breaking changes. That means what they change might break your program. For example, in version 2 there was this meta function. Suddenly in version 3 that function doesn't exist anymore because they thought it's a bad idea. Okay, so when you change or upgrade versions library, if it's a minor version upgrade, it should be okay, but of course test. If it's a major version upgrade, try not to change it because you might introduce like some major changes, bugs to your program. Okay. So now we have two libraries done. So that's slide 11. Okay. So in general, what we have actually here, let's say, so once you've done this, these two libraries, right? Remember to save. Important, save your work. Notice that the file has a asterisk at the top. So any file you see in Java that you work in Eclipse that has an asterisk means it's not saved yet. Okay, so always save or save all. Okay, let me close this guy. Okay, so while you're doing that, Eclipse, depending on your computer speed, will start downloading the libraries you just added in. Now, how do I see the libraries? Go to Java Resources, open libraries. There's this new thing called Maven dependencies. So that look at this, and wow, I added two libraries, but there's a whole bunch of other stuff. So this is what I mean by dependency management. The two libraries itself actually needed a lot of other things that come from elsewhere. Okay, so that's why it solves your problem. I don't need to know that Java server actually needs other things here, and Java server container needs other stuff from here. Okay, so it takes away the headache. Okay, let's come back to our web XML. Okay, so there's still one other thing that we need to do along the way. We just check. Okay, so that'll be later. Okay, so we'll just go down this road first. So maybe let's start with creating a first Java class. So as you might know, where will you create a first Java class? In the source folder. So right click, click on new. So what class are we creating now? So let's create a class that is in the API itself that will handle a request coming in. So this class, what will we do? It will handle get, post, put, and delete request. But since it's a class that handling all these requests coming in, it should technically be a so-called a resource or collection, right? So in our so-called weather API, let's think about the package. Normally, I would start the package, which is how you organize this. com.api.resources. So resources mean these are all my handling of the requests that come in, and I'll give that a proper response. The name of this class, maybe I call it okay, station. So in my imaginary thought right now, okay, what I'm thinking is that in my weather API, I allow stations to be created, updated. Then later what I will also be giving will be weather data. So maybe the first one I'll put is station. Okay. Yes. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of other libraries. Okay, so why did you decide this two? Okay, can. Okay, so why did I decide on this two, Java Jersey, right? And the other one is Jersey Container Servlet. So notice the same name, Jersey. Okay, so why did I decide this two? So let's go through the thought process. Why did I come to decide using Java Jersey for developing my web services? So when I started writing the material for the course and started writing the code for the course, I wanted to look for libraries and framework that help me do my work better. So I typed in Java REST API frameworks. Okay. So as a developer, normally I look for frameworks because partly I'm lazy. I don't want to code from scratch. And number two, also they help me solve a lot of problems that I will encounter along the way. So let's see. So if you type in Java REST API frameworks, of course, minus the first one, which is an advertisement, you have people talk about the top 8 Java RESTful micro frameworks. Okay. Let's look at 3 results. What's the best RESTful Java web framework to use with Java in Quora? Someone asked that. And then you have Jersey here. Okay. And of course, if you scroll down the list in Google, you have like Spark, Javelin. Javelin, the first time I saw it. REST X, okay, and other stuff. So there are a few ways you can create Java RESTful APIs using Java. In this, like someone will write about top eight frameworks. Okay, so this person recommended Drop Wizard, Light REST, Ninja, Play, and a lot of other stuff. Okay, then he gives a rating, like when was it introduced and stuff like that. I think at the end of the day, they all actually work generally well. But why you choose something compared to the rest? I think partly is which one is easier to use, easier to pick up and learn, and also depending on what kind of service you want to build. Okay, so let's look at the next one. Quora, best web framework to use with Java. So people will recommend the answers. Okay. Jersey, if you're using standard specification, then use Jersey with Spring ATOs. If you don't have a specific preference, use Spring projects. If you're using JBoss application server, then you use REST Easy. Okay, so this is part where it's different. So let's say you're developing something on top of JBoss application server, then you might want to use something along the JBoss libraries, not a Jersey in this case, because a lot of your build would have dependency on the framework that you're building on. Okay, so Jersey was one of the better choice. One of the choices here people list up. Then third result in Google, Jersey itself. So when I look at, let's say, the library like this, first thing that I will look at is documentation, user guide, getting started. How they write the getting started guide is important to how easy it is to get it started. Okay, so clear instructions is one thing. Sample code here, how it works is another. Okay, so more or less it looks quite straightforward. So therefore I decided maybe I'll just go with Jersey in this case. Yes. Yeah. You can actually create your web services without using all these frameworks. Okay. Java itself has a library under Java X WSRS. Now this is the built-in Java library for creating web services. A lot of the frameworks in Java actually take material from here, build on top. So if you can choose not to use Jersey, you can just build your services based on what is given inside here. And a lot of this is actually quite similar to what we're doing anyway. So in this case, path, consume, produces. So you'll be using the basic libraries inside Java already to achieve all these things. I said that Jersey has a little bit extra features added in. So one of the reason why Jersey might be better than the out of the box Java support is they have other features here, like I think they have OAuth here, or reactive JX or client. So a combination of reasons why I might want to choose this compared to that. In this case, okay, let's see. Reactive JS, this is one library here that doesn't exist in the Java out of the box, which is very good if you want to stream data to a mobile client. Their security or support, mobile navigation, okay, and some templates and all that. So I think eventually it's up to you what library you might want to use. No right and wrong answer here, whichever you're comfortable with. Normally when you're first doing this, you will just stick with one library for a while, then later you just exploring other libraries and switching over to other libraries when depending on use case. Yeah. Okay. So I hope that answers your question why I'm using Jersey for now. Okay. So we're gonna create the first class, right? Because the slides has saying a lot of stuff, other things. Okay, so so if I created a first class where is this class called Station Java. So Station Java purpose is to so write some documentation. Station is a resource. that will handle adding, updating, deleting, and getting details about weather stations. Okay, so this is a resource. So if I have a resource, normally what I need to do define here is a path. So I will create a path called stations. Okay, so remember the add path annotation. So the add path signifies that this will be represented in the web endpoint with the path called stations. So if you type this thing first time, what happens? You get a red underline. So whenever you see the red underline, is the Eclipse complaining to you that, hey, I don't understand what you're writing. Then the easiest way to solve that I don't understand what you're writing is to say, oh, it should be referring to a library somewhere. So if you mouse over anything with underscore underline red, you will see that Eclipse will suggest to you a couple of quick fixes. Usually the first option is to find a library that coincides with this name called path, in which they say import path from JavaX WSRS. Notice the JavaX WSRS is actually from the Java library itself. Okay. Second option, create annotation path. So we're not going to create our own annotation. So if you choose the second option, you're going to need to write a class to define path. We're not doing that. So we'll go for the first option, import path. Okay. So once you imported the path, okay, other complaints is that because I shouldn't be using a single quote, I should be using a double quote for strings. Okay. So remember in Java, whenever you're dealing with a string of characters, which is multiple characters, use a double quote. If you're dealing with one character, you use a single quote. Some programming languages allow you to use both anyway that you like. So I created a station class and it will be referred in the endpoint as stations. Okay. So maybe for the first thing I will do is to create a method, a handling method, like example get all stations. Okay. So I'm gonna write public. So to write a method in a resource that will handle, let's say, a get request, okay, of course you need to have a public method, and the return type of every single one of those methods that is going to handle a request needs to be a response type. So you key in the response, later on you will need to import the path. So this first method I'm going to write is get all stations. Okay, and for now I just return maybe a new array list. Okay, so a few things will flag out immediately. Like first of all, response. Okay, so response, they'll give you 27 options. First one, which is import response from JavaX WSRS core. Okay, so if you click on the first option, you import the library. Okay, so notice all the library so far is coming from this namespace JavaX WSRS. Okay, so this is the call of the libraries. Most of what you do will come from this namespace. So remember this. If you happen to import something and it's not coming from JavaX WSRS and it looks like a name that's do web services, you may have imported a wrong library. It happened a lot of times for students who are doing this. Then they wonder why their code didn't work. Okay, array list, simple. Okay, array list, if you've done this in your basic Java, you need to pull this out from java.util. Okay. Oh, okay, sorry. So now if I do this, it complains that, oh, I cannot return an array list to response. Of course, because I'm going to return a response type object, right? So normally what we do in your web services handling method, in all of them, there's this thing called response OK. Okay. So if you type response, okay, dot, you will start the intelligence will start working for you and tells you the list of options you can have under response. In this case, if you look at the list, there's accepted, created, no content, not modified, okay, server error. So notice all these names, they sound like some of the status code that we've gone through before in the previous slides. So let's say I want to return a perfectly okay situation. I will do a response okay. Now response.okay will be a method. Doesn't end there. You still need to call the method called build and then semicolon. So this is your basic method for handling a response. In this case, I need to specify that this is a get. Okay. So notice when I type the get, it complains again. Oh, where's your get coming from? Mouse over this. First option says import get from the javax.ws.rs. So to cure all the problems of importing, come back to the top here. To the first line where you have javax ws.rs.path, take away the path and put a asterisk. So basically, I'm covering most of the libraries I will be using, especially the annotations like path, get, post, put, delete. Let me take away the extra line comments. Okay. So to be clear, my first method here, get all stations, okay, will return a response. The return response.ok build will be a very standard line that you will do for most of your methods. Some of the lines you'll come across, you will not do a OK, you might do a server error or not authorized. That will happen when we go to the topic of authentication. Okay, so this is your first get method. Now just now we had the array list. Shall we have the array list here again? So if I want to return an array list in the data, so let's say I want to return data. So the question is, where do I put the data now? Let's just create imaginary variable called stations. There's an array list type, okay, and then instance array list to this guy, okay. So I have a stations that's array list type. Eventually, this will be a list of station data, but for now we just leave it as this. We can actually put the stations inside the OK. Okay, so let me rewind and show you. When you type response.ok, okay, Java IntelliSense will give you a couple options. The version, first of the version with nothing inside, second with a object entity with media type, string, and type and variant. So far, most of people will deal with up to the third version. Okay, so what is the entity here? The entity is the data you want to return. It can be a class, an object, a list, anything, or just a string even. So when I put what I put here, return response OK, with the stations list inside, it will convert the stations into a data that will return as a response. What type of response? I don't know yet because I haven't defined. What does it produce? Okay, so we'll leave it as this to next thing put this into Glassfish to test it out. Now now we have a minimum one resource, one web service method. We need to convert this into a web service. So now final things to do that we need to accomplish before we come to web service. If you zoom into your, okay, so we'll skip all the way to slide 17. Okay, so there are a few classes we need to create that will do some handling. One of this at slide 17 is called resource configuration. Okay, so there's a resource configuration class we need to create. In your future assignment 2, you will find this very useful, especially when you do authentication, because the resource configuration will say what are the classes you have that are exposed to web services, what kind of conversion you want for your JSON objects, and what kind of authentication you need. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, so we're going to create a new class, which is an application. We can call it in this case weather application. So let me put under source, click on new class. So I'll call this weather application. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is this one will actually should inherit. What am I going to inherit? Okay. So it's going to extend resource config. So resource config comes from Glassfish. What it handles is you actually do a first time configuration of your Java application. Put this out. So extends resource config means my weather application will inherit the methods and properties of resource config. At the same time, I will also write my own methods or override resource config's methods. Have you all gone through how you do extends in inheritance in basic Java? Yeah, right. Okay, so the concept is there. So resource config is an existing class that has already methods to handle a lot of things. But what we are doing here is that we want to override it and say instead of resource config doing the default stuff, let me do some of it my own way. So one of the first methods you will actually um, have is of course a constructor. So the type of the constructor. So create a constructor for weather application. In here, and so I need to key in would be, so the constructor for resource config basically allows me to define the location, first of all, location of my services. Okay, so what am I keying in here? Packages basically, it will tell resource config, hey, Java, I have some web services and some packages you must load into the library, which are coming from this package itself, this area here. So station Java will eventually be so-called aware. You will know that there's this thing called station Java, stations which will map to endpoint, and so it will be you can then call my method called get all stations. So that's the first part, defining packages. Second part you need to do, okay. So that is your basic application, is to modify the web XML. So remember earlier when I said the web XML now looks like you're making a website, okay, but you're not. So we're not going to make a website. You can go to your PowerPoint, slide 21, copy this whole lot, okay, just blatantly copy it, go to web.inf, web XML. So now it says now the application will behave like a website, but no, we don't want it to behave like a website. Let's see, tick. So what we're going to do is going to replace this welcome file list, okay, take that away, paste in the stuff that you copied from the PowerPoint, and then we rename some things. First of all, the servlet name. So instead of hello rest in the PowerPoint, change it to weather API. Okay, the second part remains the same. Instead of, so here we have this comment, define the resource config class. So in this web XML version for web services, you need to tell Java, I have my own resource config that I created just now called weather application. Use that instead of using the default. Okay. So the parameter is for the application to be replaced by your version. So in this case, I will replace this parameter value. Of course, follow my package com.weather.api resources weather application. Okay. So that is replaced. Make sure the name is correct. If it's not correct, you will not load. Next thing, so map all the URLs to the Jersey servlet container. So what is my servlet name? Rule of thumb, just copy your server name from the top here. It needs to be the same. What's my URI pattern? Okay, so this is the part when I can decide, should I have an API path after the context root? So do I want to call my endpoints from weather API / API or just weather API? Okay, it's up to me. So maybe I want to call it an API, I'll just put an API there, followed by the slash. Make sure the asterisk is there. Asterisk will handle the rest of your other path. So whatever's behind whatever is an asterisk in place will be, for example, this guy, starting from here, stations to whichever. So this one onwards will be substituted into the part where it says, the part where it has the asterisk. Okay. So let's see. So I've done that part. Okay, which is your slide 22. Okay. So now is the easy part. The easy part now is to put this on Glassfish server. Is anyone lost? Lost in typing or lost in thought? So you may type up to speed, but your brain is lost right now, or your brain is lost and your typing is lost as well. Okay, so now you're autopiloting by just recording, right?
Look at your station.java.
Okay.
So change the import to ws.rs.star.
Yeah,
So
dot star
that
would
everything
pull everything.
can.
Yes.
But
Okay.
the response is called dot response.
Okay.
No, 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 no. But
Yes.
why is it that call dot response still need to be there even if it's star already there?
Good question. Let's try. By right, your star means everything, right?
Yeah.
Okay. No.
No.
Yeah. So
Okay,
star
so
is
the
only one
call,
level.
okay, only one level. Okay.
Yep. So otherwise, extremely lazy developer would just go like this, right? Okay. Okay. So, okay, importing libraries. Why? Okay. So, Billy mentioned asked an interesting question. Since I have rs.star here, right, means this and this should be included. Wildcard, right? Like folder, include the top folder,
Yeah.
everything in the child should be included. But then if I do this, like delete this away, then it starts complaining that, hey, where's response? Okay, so then I'll say the extremely lazy developer will probably do this. Just tweak everything, right? Why bother? Since I'm gonna do it that way, go all the way lah. Okay, so why? Okay, so the more libraries you include, the more memory it will take. Okay, simple. If I'm using only these two libraries, why do they want you to explicitly specify what libraries you want to use? Because I think in the old days, which was when I was studying Java, um, our computers only had my laptop only had about 100 megabyte of hard disk space. My RAM was only I think 64 meg, and it's still thicker than this guy. Okay, so in those days, computing resources were very not like now. There's much abundant. When you talk about gigs and tera and peta, last time was just in megabytes. Gigabyte was like a bit hard to imagine. I doubled my RAM about for $600 a time. Yeah. Okay, so because computer resources were very expensive, memory was very little. Um, Not like today we do 8 gig, 16 gig RAM. Okay, so we were very conservative about libraries we want to use. So we only import what we need. Everything was about optimization. Only take what you need. Don't take more than what you need. Okay. Nowadays your computing resources are more powerful, so you can be a bit more relaxed. Okay, you're not building a NASA spacecraft to go to Pluto, so it's okay, right? The util, right? Yeah. Utility is for array list. Yeah, array list comes from the util. Yes. For example, let's say I take away this util, right? Then it starts complaining to me, hey, array list, I don't know what is it. So you mouse over, Eclipse will do something very nice, like tell you, oh, there's some quick fixes, like there's a library called array list inside util. You just import that, you fix the problem. Then the other rest are like the rest of the suggested solution will be maybe it's another library, or maybe you need to create a class. Okay, yeah. So normally the first option is correct most of the time. So when you choose the first option, they will actually just import only the class, right? Because then next time if I use something else like a string tokenizer or something else, then I will need to import another library, right? So that's how it works. Okay, I need to know who's lost at where. The library part. Oh, transfer. Okay, okay. Pop XML, this part. Okay, let me rewind back to. Okay, so is everybody clear about how you start a project? Okay, that you choose. So when I click on new, what do I choose? Yep, dynamic web project, right? Okay. Then the first thing you do after you do that is to go to the web XML, take a look at some of the things, right? So the first time you do dynamic web project, it's a website. Okay. So you need to right click and then do a configure, convert to Maven project. Okay. It doesn't exist here because this guy is already converted. So there will be a fifth option, convert the Maven project. What is Maven for? Maven is for downloading the libraries you need for your project. Okay, so remember what is Maven for? I will ask that in the exam. Okay. What Maven is for downloading libraries you need for your project. But I will not ask this question in the exam. Huh? 4 weeks, about 13 weeks from now, or 12 weeks from now. Yeah, still got time. Don't worry, you all pass. You all will pass one. So Maven is for downloading libraries you need for a project. Library for the project. Yes. So once you have Maven, right, how do you control Maven? Like, say I want to download library A, B, C, or whatever, right? You go to the POM XML, then you have this dependency, which is the second tab, that is add. Okay. So when you add the dependency, you need to find out three things. What's the ID, group ID, artifact ID, and the version number. Okay. For now, because you're doing a REST API, so what I recommend is to use this two libraries called Jersey Server and Jersey Container Servlet. When you hit the database lesson, you will add one more library, which is your MySQL connector. Okay, remember you saw MySQL connector in your MySQL installer, right? When it comes to that point, you will reuse this. Okay. Along the way, you might use other things like open authentication, web token, and stuff. So along the way, so as you add more libraries, you can do it through this screen here. Okay, so now you converted to Maven, you added your libraries. Then of course the most natural thing to do is to add a Java class, right? So the context of this practical is to create a mock weather API where you have stations, you have weather data. So the first resource I'll create will be stations, which will handle get, post, put, delete, updating, adding, getting your station information. So that's my first Java class. So because my resource is called station, then naturally I want the path to access this URL be called stations. And my first method here will be a get all station, where I have the get annotation, and I create a array list variable and return it in the response OK. So you'll notice that every method you write in your resource will always have the same pattern. The same pattern as in, you will always return a response object, and when you do a return, you always call return response.ok, followed by the data sendback dot build. Very standard throughout most of your methods in the resource class. Sometimes your response may not be okay because you purposely want to return something based on depending on what happened. So your return here can be different, but always starts with the response.
So the stupid question, station Java, the one is the right, you have to right click and review under the SR.
Yes.
New
Class.
Then station.
Yeah.
Name station.
Package. Package will be, okay, in this case, I would decide to put this station under the package called com.weatherapi.resources.
Must link to the title.
For me, I link to the title. Yeah. Correct. Okay, why com in front, right? Not for .com, it's commercial. Yes. If you look at Java have so this namespace, so this namespacing pattern. If you go to your other libraries, you can refer from libraries. Okay. Notice all the namespaces here. Okay, the reason why they start a com in front is because it stands for commercial. Okay, .sun, the company, something else. Okay, so normally it's like a reverse domain name lah. Okay, so the first part of your namespace truly can be anything. For standards, it's usually .com, com dot something. You can actually call it anything you like. Doesn't have to be com dot something. Okay, but what's the impact of doing this, right? com.weatherapi.resources. I'll show you now what actually this looks like. So if I go to my file, Java, okay, right click. There's this open with open show in System Explorer. Okay, I'll show you how Java actually organizes it based on your naming convention. Do you notice that because I call it com.weatherapi.resources, it created a folder structure for me? Okay. So that means if I stop at resources, I just saw com.weather API, in like this folder. So what Eclipse is doing is namespacing is just a folder organization. Okay, organization is about organization. So the more dots you create, the more folders you have lah. Okay. Okay. But it's meant to organize things properly. Like, okay, this is my resources. Then next time I create another, maybe weather API dot services. Then my so-called business logic is there. Weather API dot database. Then my data connection SQL is all there. So I organize it in that way.
What about in future really for commercial use, usually we have data version, thereafter the subsequent version. So which level should we put such controls?
Okay, so there are two parts of answer to this question, because the questions two aspects of project. One is overall the project versioning. Okay, normally your project versioning you don't put inside the namespaces. We use Git to do we use Git server source control to manage the versions. So source control you can tag this let's say this build right as a version 0.1, then tag the next one 0.2. Okay, by tagging it, that's at the whole level. The other part of your question is about API versioning. I don't need the whole thing to be a version 2, but I happen to have one of my methods become a version 2. For example, station one day may become a version 2 because I add more methods and improve it. Okay, then you can actually have a physical v2 inside here. So when you have a physical v2, you swap the library to your v2. And what's the good thing about that? You can have concurrently v1 in use, v2 release, which is what Facebook does. So Facebook will have a lot of APIs for developers like me to use. And before they announce that they're gonna kill off this version because they have version 2 coming, they will release the news first. Oh, we have version 2 that will be released in 2019 January. Version 1 will be kept there for at least the next 2 years. Then 6 months before we actually kill it, we inform you again. Then 1 month before they actually terminate, right, they inform you everybody one more time. Then they close it. So we call it API versioning. You have concurrent version of API running at the same time. Why you need to have concurrent? Because you need people to migrate, move over. You give them time to move over. You don't just cut off one and then expect all of them to move over to the second one. Okay? So they're doing it as a part of a responsibility, because many people, commercial, are using their APIs. So that's the question. That's be the answer for versioning. So now that we've created the Java class, okay, the next important part is this thing, weather application Java. So I need to explain a bit more about what resource config does. In most web APIs, you don't need this thing. You don't need this class called application extend resource config. You don't need it because normally the REST Java web services will pick up this thing as a resource. Why? Because you have a path, you have a get. Okay, so you don't really need this guy. Why do we put this in place? Now there will be few things we will be modifying along the way. Firstly, JSON transformation. How do you convert an object, a Java class to JSON, and vice versa? Take a JSON data, which is all string, convert it back to a class. So we'll be using a library called Jackson, and here is a place where we will tell Java, say use this library to convert the JSON data instead of using your own built-in library. Because actually there's some problem, there's some issues with their own library. It's a bit primitive, that's why. Okay. Then after that, the next thing that we might do is here we will tell the Java to say route all the requests to this special class that will authenticate everything that comes in. Authentication. Okay. So Jersey allows us to in here define classes that will authenticate capture requests. For example, I want to check username password. I want to check whether certain users can access the APIs. So in the resource config is where I can say I want a class to do all the checking. If you don't have it there, then it's a bit difficult to control. Okay, so you have a bit more control when you use a resource config. So these are the things that can be done. Like for example, maybe I want to, the resource config is also quite useful when, let's say, when the application starts up the first time, I want it to run some kind of back-end job. So you can also do it here. Because what happens is that this class, this constructor will only run one time when the application or server starts. The next time it will run is when the whole thing shut down and start again. So that's why we have a resource config. So after creating this thing, this class here that extends the resource config. Okay, the packages here basically tells resource config that okay, so explicitly that my API classes are endpoint classes are here. The other part that I need to do is to edit the web XML. So just now you saw that it had a lot of nice index HTML, index JSP, default pages. Because it still thinks it's a website, so we don't want it to be a website, we take away all those things and we create this two set of definition. So notice that the tag here or the XML element called the text here called servlet and servlet mapping. So a servlet is basically a server engine, a small server engine that actually handles requests that come in, get requests, post requests, put requests. So here what I did is I created a servlet called weather API, and I say instead of using its default application, use my version instead. Run this thing on startup one time. Okay, the server mapping will tell Java that whatever request we should send to /api.start. So example, I have my stations, right? Station Java. There's a part called stations. So in this get request, basically to call this get request will be this get stations, right? Now, but because I have a context here, so in this context here is get stations. Now, if I look at this part API, because I want the API in front to call the get station, it will be get/API/stations. Okay, then one more level, where it's hosted in Glassfish, it's called weather API. So it will be get/weather API followed by API here, followed by stations here. Okay, so there's 1, 2, and then finally your method. That constructs your URL to get there. Okay, take note this is only for Glassfish. Other okay, Glassfish is okay, it's a server. One is for testing or local testing. When you deploy up, most of this won't change. You can put on an Apache Tomcat server or any Java server, it will still run. But then you still need to configure, okay, the things you need to change, right, when you deploy to another server, not Glassfish, would basically be this thing called your context root. So when you put another server, let's say the server is shared with other application, right, it will ask you to define this context root here. What do you want to name it there? Which of course you need to name it that it doesn't clash with other services that are running, right? So it's be your unique. Then in terms of XML, you don't need to change this part because this will be pushed into the server also. Java, instead of Java code, you don't need to change also when you move to another server. This will remain the same.
Station Java is our actual
Endpoint,
endpoint.
Yeah.
The web is to upload to the website. Then Glassfish
Test.
is to load out.
Microsoft, okay, never mind. Sure. Different, yeah. That's why every framework is different. Every language. Java is its own way of creating web services. Microsoft also its own way of Visual Studio. If you're using Python, that's Django. If you're using JavaScript, Node.js, there's Express, there's Sail. So they all have different ways of creating web services. Some fairly easy because they will just template everything for you. They just fill in the blanks and copy and clone the codes. Some places you need to do a bit more work. Among all the languages, Java is the one make you most hardworking. Yeah. So you need to write a lot of things. In Microsoft, by now you already be writing the actual code already, not doing this part. In other languages, you already pass this point already.
In Java, it's only this choice.
No, in Java, not many other choices. Slightly better choice would be those that do templating. That means they use a boilerplate, they scaffold your 4 basic methods, then you fill in the blanks. One of the easier way to do it. Yeah, but I think after if you season enough, you actually you may not use a boilerplate also, you just code it straight away. But for learning, it's kind of useful also sometimes. So now I'm teaching you to code from the fairly base level, not too base yet, because eventually you need to be familiar with all these things instead of just using tools and libraries all the time. Yeah, don't need to be so like toolsy, like everything is a tool, a tool, a tool. Instead, you actually have your own knowledge to actually create something, right? Okay, so we stop at the part whereby, okay, what is this resource config? This part is the confusing part where I copy a lot of things from my PowerPoint, right? Copy over here, then start changing things. Okay, start changing this server name, start changing this parameter value here, the server name here, and the URL pattern here. Okay, so what does web XML do? Web XML will tell your web XML sort of tells your web server where you're going to deploy to how my application is supposed to be like. What's the name? What class? What default class shall you use to run? Okay, what's the URL to call? What to get to the endpoints? So XML is more for the server that you're going to put on rather than itself. Okay, Glassfish XML is specifically for Glassfish only. If you're going to put another server like a Tomcat, you don't need this Glassfish XML. Your so-called manifest will only just have this XML. Okay, and so after you have edited the XML, you only left with one thing to do is to put this thing on Glassfish, which is the simplest part. Okay, so how to put this? How do you put now your weather API that has got one endpoint on Glassfish, so you can test this get all stations? Very easy. Go to Glassfish, right click. Okay, you can start also. Start first, add later, or add and then start later. Okay, so you can whether or not you've started the engine already, you can choose right click on Glassfish, choose add and remove. Okay, so you'll be very nice. You'll list out all the application, all the projects you have in Eclipse. Okay, so I choose my weather API. Okay, maybe I fully go and remove it. Okay, take my weather API, add it in. So whatever is on the right hand side configured is the thing I want to put in my Glassfish server for testing. Okay, so there's this checkbox here. If server is started, publish changes immediately. Okay, so means if your server is started, you will just push it up. Okay, now I just click finish. Do you want to remove? Yes, I'll remove the previous one. Okay, so now stop, right? Then I expand, I see my weather API inside there. Start engine. Okay, so now see whose computer is faster. Okay, so when you start the engine, first thing is that your tab will switch to the console tab because it will start telling you a lot of things, which 90% of the stuff you don't really care, unless you have an error. Okay, you click back on servers, you'll see that, oh, it's starting synchronized. So there'll be some key messages here from the server that you need to take note. First of all, the starting says it's not started yet, so you don't go and access it. Number two, synchronize tells you that the code is up to date in the server already. So now all I need to wait is for this 69% to get to 100%, which is also the part where some of you may face problem because of the configuration of Java and Eclipse and some other random issues. My last semester, I have a student who was stuck at 69% for 3 hours. Hope that doesn't happen to me. Yep. So once it's done, okay, you say started. Still not finished yet. There's a publishing part. When do you know you can actually access your application? When you say started and synchronized. Okay. So remember one of the lessons how you access the admin panel. So method one of accessing my application, right click on this, go to Glassfish, click on the view admin console. Okay, internally a browser will appear. So if you can see, this part means your server is alive. Okay, so here you will see, okay, you log in because you don't have a password, username, password. Wait for the page to load. Okay, so I'm only interested in one part called list deployed application. So just to see if my weather API was deployed. Okay, you see it there. I'll click on the launch. So launch will open up my external browser window. So it will show me the URLs to get to it. So the first URL here, weather API, which I will open my Postman. So next program to open up is Postman. So now what I want to do, test my stations API, get off station, does it work? So I have the first part of my URL, which is this. Okay, yeah, bigger. Yeah, this part. Okay, so the first part here will be the name of your computer. If you were to change this host name to localhost, everything else will be the same. So now in my space, let me create a tree lab. Okay, okay, let me create a collection. So and let me paste it in. Okay, so this is my URL first. So okay, how do I get to my get all stations? So remember 1, 2, 3, right? Where's one? One is here. Where the API. Two is where XML. This part API, right? And then finally three is my code stations. So let's always look at the class first. Send. And see what happens. Anything happens, server error. Error. Okay, let me save this guy first. Huh? Okay, so I actually have an error. So what happens if I error? Let's go to console. Now if you have an error, okay. Let's see. Okay, so I have error. So look for all this stuff here. Let me see. Can we refine this? No, we can't. Okay, so console is where you see what happens. It will give you a lot of information like info you can ignore. Warning, most of the time you can ignore. What you do not ignore is when it says severe. Severe means error. Message body writer not found for media type, application, whatever type array list. Okay, so it's complaining. I returned the array list, but it doesn't have a thing called message body writer. Okay. In other words, it's saying that it don't know how to format this thing for a response output. Okay, let me refer to something very old. Okay. Now, why is it complaining that it cannot convert an array list? Because we don't have a certain class for converting the object to a JSON yet. Or rather here it doesn't know what to return as. So let me try to fix this. So I'm guessing it doesn't know what to convert to, so it's lost, right? You got a list, but like we're thinking, should I return XML or JSON or what? So you cannot decide. Let me put an application JSON here to tell it that it should do this. Okay. So since I updated the code by writing a producers application JSON, okay, notice that your server says republish. So every time you make a change in your code and you have saved, okay, you have saved it, it will tell you that, oh, you need to republish the changes. Okay, because what is on the server is not updated. To republish the changes, right click on Glassfish server, then choose server, click on publish. So that all your changes here will go into Glassfish server. So when we say synchronize, means it's done. So now come back to the Postman, send, and see what happens. Okay, still reject me. Okay. And still message body writer not found for media type. Okay. So I'm going to start typing something. Hold on, let me see. Let's generate the T. Sorry. The power I use Google to help me. Okay. This T. Here's the T there. Actually, wait. Don't do it there. Here directly. Missing timeless. Correct. T not visible. Nope. Yeah, generally just copy paste. Get type. Okay, I get it. Get it. Type of. How do I get type? Java get type. Class. Second class. Okay, because you go get type here, you implement your get type. Oh, that sucks. I could implement that one. How did I get around this? I know I did something like this. Okay, I'm playing cheat here. This would be could come from here. Nah. Is this missing that? It's anonymous class. Okay. Oh, okay. Should be this. Hmm. Try XML and see what happens. Okay. Okay, I'll get to that later. Just do the text and see what happens.
Mm.
Okay,
Send the arrays.
array to return.
You return the entity is okay.
Yeah, because you're not using a library to convert. Okay. Okay, so right. So when returning a list, I got some problem because it needs to have this thing called a message error message body writer. Okay. So apparently, if I'm returning other than text, if I'm returning a list or a object, it needs to have a message body writer. So it doesn't know how to convert the object like a list of array list to JSON or XML. So if I would, but if however if I return a text like just get all stations, it works. Okay, because this is not typically what you would try to return most of the time. So you can see the headers here, content type is text plain. So the most basic you can return is text. So I'm trying to figure out if I were to return a list like this, which is very commonly you will always be return. You should be returning a list. How do you do this, right? Okay. So we need to look at Java
Message body writer.
message body writer. Okay. Right. Okay. So there's this entity. Let's see. I think it's here. Entity stations. If I were to do this, we wrap this guy in here. Okay. So let's try. So there's an entity method here and OK. So the entity method basically allows me to pass in a generate entity, which is a wrapper. I wrap my station inside there and see what
Yay!
happens. Still error. Okay. So it still complains that that is not a proper message body writer. Because this is text HTML, it's fine. So what is the message body writer? This one produces text HTML. Okay, that's because I put this user It's the class. Yeah. Okay.
Does rs.text dot message body, could it be the same like our call response and that you need to specifically
Okay. So what they're saying the message body writer does is that your message body writer help if you create a message body writer you can determine how the object is to be returned. But it's something you need to write from scratch. Like
can
this.
we try out from this Google this message body writer and try out this
Yeah.
code and plug it in?
Yeah. That's one way of like oh. So this is an interesting message body writer because normally you don't return data in HTML. So what this message body writer does is that it takes your data and then wraps it nicely in HTML, all the text and all that, and then returns it out in that form. So it's a very customized message body writer. But let's say Google message body writer object to JSON, right? Okay, so this one, so this is first, so this is a student who also wants to get student return JSON and just return S like that. Okay, so so the method here doesn't have a response, but it just returns object. Interesting, right? Okay, he has a problem. It's not working. Okay, so let's see who has a answer. Someone says suggested install Jackson. Jackson is a library for converting objects to JSON. Okay, so you don't need to write a message body writer. You just use a library. Someone said use you need to create empty constructor because it initializes classes. Okay, no votes. Someone suggested going to another tutorial. Storm pile. So he found out how we can do it from another tutorial somewhere. Okay. Okay, so this is a Git repository of some sample codes where it show you how you create REST API using JXRS with Jersey. Let's take a look. Resources here. So the controller, hmm, getting a to do resource. Okay, right. What does this do? Collection resource. So this is quite lengthy. To do service. Yes. Okay. Wow. These are entities. Okay. Looks at the other version. Here's another article with Jersey and Jackson. Okay, so which will bring me to Jackson very soon. Okay. So now we got a problem. We have data that we want to return in JSON format, but we can't do it unless we write a message body writer. So if you don't write a message body writer, in this example here, he suggested we use a library called Jackson. Okay. So to make Jersey Jackson support, declare this in the Maven pom, which is adding a library to your project. Which then comes to, let's see, do I have it as part of slide later? Okay, so the rest of my slides will show you everything you need to do with the 4 HTTP methods, except it's only return you all in text. And then later we'll call to JSON. Okay, so let's do that. So later we'll go through the library that will convert your object to JSON. We'll come to that later, but first we'll settle with plain text. Okay, so this is for later. Send to object to JSON. Okay, so now we got a get method. So let's cover the rest 3 remaining methods like a post and such. Okay, so I'm gonna do a post at station. Okay. Okay. So you need the declaration here, post. Okay. And yes, I need a parameter. Oh no. So for this, see what is the post method. So what we're going to do is that this post at station, we're going to consume plain text. Okay, so take note, everything we do right now is going to be very boring plain text. Because you're yet to use the library for converting JSON yet. Okay, so text plain station name. Okay, so I'm going to create a add station. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to create add station method, and it's going to be a post. You will receive one parameter called station name, which is from the text plain, consume text plain. Then I will return back added station, okay, with the station name sent over. Okay, so the method is called add station. It has a parameter called station name, which is string type. So we're going to demonstrate how we can get data in as a plain text and then return it back in the response. So in the response, okay, I put an add station plus the station name return back. Okay, dot build. So for get is just simply getting data, returning data. First one we try get with no parameters at all. Then now we do a post with a parameter sent in as text, and then we return it. We feed it back to the user. So if I come back to my postman, I'll just duplicate this method first. Okay. So now I change this to post. Okay. So for my body here, because I set as text plain, set to raw, choose text plain. So I'm going to send Galileo in. Okay, so I'm going to call my station name Galileo, do a send. Oh, because I haven't published yet, right? Okay, remember after you saved, publish your Java class. Okay, so now I synchronize. Go send again. Yeah. So what happens is that I send in a data called Galileo. So that is to do a post. So post to station, I'm simulating the add, send a name here, and I return the name in the response. So this is what your posts generally do. So if you were to, so now what you notice that you have two endpoints, the URL and the path is the same, but the method is different. So in one, in your get is simply, as I send, get now it's just to return text. But if I do a post to the same URL, to the same endpoint, I can send in data and return me data. Right? So this is your post method. Save this guy. Okay. Now I'm going to do a delete, put. So same thing, send a text parameter. After it's station, station name. So it's pretty much the same thing. Then you just need to so the only difference between this update station and the add station in terms of the method will be one has a post and one has a put. In this case, what I'll need is also, remember put is for updating information. So I will probably have a path here. I'll say ID, small ID, okay, station name, integer ID. So the path here, that means I'm expecting the path of an ID, a number. I will send it to the parameter here, ID. But how do I map this path parameter to the parameter here? Is before the ID, I need to create a declaration called a path parameter, and then put in the same key as the one I use in here. Okay. So what? So now I link up this ID, whatever is sent in ID, the URL will be sent to this variable here called ID. So do that. Publish. So now duplicate this method. Okay. Let's change this to a put. Okay. So my path just now I was expecting ID. Let's say I put an ID called 901. Okay. So replace my body with a name of station. We'll send. Okay. So what happens is that I have edited station Pluto. Okay, if I want to show the ID that was sent in, let me change this. So we modify the message with ID, here. Okay, publish. Okay, so you can see that the ID that passed in the path comes out in the response for the put method. So let's say you want to physically really edit a station with ID 9001. Okay, so you put a path parameter, and you will be assigned to the method parameter if you put a path param annotation there. So this will be for the put method. And if I do a delete, so delete typically we just have an ID. So I put it as delete, and the path here ID. Okay. Station ID. So for the delete method, this method will be invoked if you send it over as a delete method, and based on the ID that you send in, I will print the ID out in the response.
This one for delete, we just put integer ID. We don't have to say the path param.
Ah, good. Yes, you need to put param. So I link up the ID here to this method parameter here. So the path parameter is important so that it knows that Java will know that, oh, for this ID to have a value, where will it take it from? So the path parameter identifies this to the value here, the text. So it's like a key. So both names must match in order for a value to be put in this variable. So once you type this out, you can try in Postman, call the method similar to put, but this time no body, just send an ID in the path, and then look at the response. So if you tell you that it's so give you a text response deleted station ID. Remember to publish your changes once you're done. Okay. So does anyone know how to test your endpoints? Do you know how to test your endpoints? Test the endpoints the endpoints here. Yes. So for delete, it will be postman. You can duplicate the last method. Choose from the drop down delete. In terms of the body, in this case there's nothing. So the delete will ignore whatever. I think you ignore whatever you have in the body. Probably won't work. Oh, take away this first. Shouldn't have a body. So make sure when you do a delete, don't have anything in the body here. It must be empty. Okay. Then you click a send, you should see that whatever number I'm sending over, it will be deleting based on the ID. You can try also if you key in some text, some dummy text here, right? Some dummy text. Okay. I don't know what happened if I do this. Probably yeah, this will happen. Okay. So why did a 4 happen when I key in text when not a number? So first of all, by when Java takes a look at a request, especially with text, it will assume that there's an endpoint that's catered for it because it's text, and not a number. That's one of the most obvious things. And so therefore, it comes right the result say, it can't find the method that matches this slash sum, whatever I send over. Okay. However, if you do put a number, it works. You can try this experiment also. If you can try this by doing this change. So let's say I want to pass text here. I go to my Java method. I change my type here integer to string and see what happens. Okay, so I'm going to do another method. Okay, I'm going to do a get, but the difference with the get here is that there will be a path with a parameter values. So values value. So public response. Okay, make sure that it's produces. For now, I'll just produce text plain. So the return response uh, get values. Okay, so string. So because I'm going to use the value as a parameter, because I need to set it as a path parameter called value. Right. Okay. Then I will return the response get values. Okay. So here is a method that receives a parameter after values called value, and that parameter happens to be a string type. Okay. So they should match if I call my use postman to call this method. So how am I going to invoke this method? Okay, okay, still typing right. So later it will be slash value slash whatever I want to text. It can be a number, it can be a text, and see what happens. Whether you give it a 4 because you can't find it, or you return me get values with the text I send it. Okay, let's take a look, huh? So duplicate this guy. Push this up first. You can see this. So you're still copying that. So now what happens is that in stations, I'm gonna have additional part parameter called values, and put hello. Okay, change this to a get, and do a send. And apparently it works. In this case, I just randomly throw an ID because I'm not actually deleting anywhere. So the ID doesn't have a source where it's actually coming from. But if, when you're using a database, yes, it must have a matching ID in the database. So if a ID that is not exist is sent in, you need to handle it by saying this is a bad request or it's invalid ID. And that will stop processing. Okay, because I went so for this example, we're just plainly doing the web services without any database linkage. Just to demonstrate how data count goes in and how data can be returned back. So imagine we get so in one lesson we get the database, you have to actually match it by the ID. That's your statement and say, okay, it's found, then I can do a delete or update. Then if it's not found, I should actually throw back a message say bad request or invalid ID. Which one? Look back, API management tool. Okay, that one be different. Simple, right? It is. Mm, yep. Handle in the it's a GUI. It's a GUI to create it as well, right? Mm, yes. Without all this hard wiring, right? Yeah. Okay. I think because loopback is it open source? I mean, oh, it's a in Angular. Oh, you add a loopback to tie to it, right? Okay. It's definitely easier than this, no? Just use it, right? Is it together with Node.js, is it? This one, right? Loopback. It's Loopback is not built for Java. It's okay. For Java, there will be lah. There are some simple stuff. For me, I don't really do projects in Java. I'm more work on Microsoft stuff. So with Microsoft, we use this thing called Entity Framework, and code first migration. So we define our models. Everything is defined from code first. So we define our model entities relation from classes to classes. Then within each relation, each property, we can actually say does this need to be exposed as a JSON eventually when when it travels to the endpoint. And we can also annotate rules for each properties, like validation rules. use that as an input model or as an output model. Yeah. So you do it in annotation, right? I want this to be email. I want this to be only numbers. I want this to be only characters, right? So there are built-in libraries to handle the common validations. But so you don't need to actually code the validation. Yeah, I do quite a lot of things for. True, true. I think it will last. It definitely will last. A lot of these tools actually automate your build, your development process faster. I mean, the only challenge with jumping onto the tools, right, as a fresh developer is that you don't understand a lot of the back end stuff. You don't understand how things are actually being made. They're just using things. Like for example, if let's say I just use a set of validation like email validation, um, country telephone code validation. I just use a library, but then do you actually know how to write an actual validation logic? Which is true. Yeah. So libraries are always there to use. So you can actually use all the libraries that you want to achieve your objective. But for your personal intellectual development, like how well versed are you? Would you know programming to create this yourself? Not to recreate, but create better things. Let's say I know okay I can validate email by using a whole bunch of libraries, but I don't actually know how to validate email properly. Can I do it better with regular expression? Can I do it better with another algorithm? So mm, yeah, correct, correct. A lot, a lot. It takes. Yes. Learn along the way as you put. Yeah. So normally even for me, if it's a new technology or a challenge, Googling will find me some answer. Then we see which is the better answer. Yeah, just learn and picking up, learn and pick up. Yeah, of course. It's different when you're going in depth to learn and then just using libraries to achieve. Or just like or generally just googling for answer, which still works actually. Still is you still yeah true true you, which is actually quite helpful. I mean when you need yeah find yeah which is true. I mean that's how things are outside. Mm. Doesn't matter. It's database agnostic. Is you normally database agnostic. Java has this thing called Hibernate. Hibernate is an OR mapping tool. So you define entities and then eventually you map to the database. And whether you're going to use Oracle, MySQL, SQL Server, or something else, it doesn't matter. We call it adapter. It's like okay. I mean, true, but so the experience with how those things are managed, if you use libraries like like those frameworks like OR mapping tools, is that there are actually performance bottlenecks when you hit a certain scale. Then you need to get off the tool and actually start writing something under the hood already. So one project which I worked on, we use Microsoft, we use Entity Framework LinkQ to access records, but the database is in the number of billions, and so we hit a lot of regular generic entity framework entity calls are all built from the query builder. So it's like templated lah, just follow the library you build, right? But it's not optimized. So the actual SQL constructed in LinkQ right is too exhaustive. So actually you need to go down to writing the actual SQL to be more optimized to get a more optimized result. So sometimes there may be some I think performance issue also when using all these libraries. It's not the library itself is performance, yeah. But for regular, I think not high performance enterprise level stuff, right? It still works out most of the time. So I think it's exploring what works and then you'll find out that okay maybe change some strategy. Like now we talk about MongoDB, you know, Node.js, you don't even need to build a Java site and then deploy a glassfish and all that. Okay. Java is native. Actually, you can move to Kotlin. Not popular yet. Yeah, but they want to move away from Java and the whole Oracle thing. Yeah, true lah. Or you can, or you do front end right, you can do React Native. Yeah, then you can actually build for both platforms. So it's not 100% of the the native code. You still compile native code for you. Mm. Yeah, it's good enough for most use cases. Right. So unless you were doing a game lah, then you need pure native, right? But for all the apps you see, all can be done with React Native. You don't need a lot of high with the interactive features. So even augmented reality can still be done through React Native. There's some libraries. They are coming out with something for React Native soon, but it might be more of a web application development rather than mobile website. Yeah. Because hmm? um, I think whether it's pseudo native or native doesn't matter actually. I think it's about how fast can you get a product with the tools available. Yeah, some will teach more. Yeah, some will teach more fundamental, then some will teach like how to use certain tools to get up to speed. Right? I think half a year, half a year. They're coming with the syllabus. Yeah, but it will change very fast. All those things. Okay. All right. So you need a break, or have you break already? Okay, have a break. So okay lah. So what we have here the five methods here is just purely plain text in, plain text out. The first problem that I encountered was how do you return an object this, right? The next part I'll cover because we actually need to use a library to do conversion. Otherwise you need to write a own library write own library to convert it into JSON. Okay. Yeah, okay, so there are two ways to go around it. So that when they complain that there's no message body writer, because Java doesn't build in a library to convert an object to JSON. Neither does it build a library to convert the other way around. You need two ways. So they will say, oh, you need to write your own method to convert, which is very tedious. Okay. So you can go experiment writing your own method. So what I will cover in the class is we'll use Jackson library that will do the JSON conversion, the object to JSON, JSON object. So easier lah, just one library to put in one place and this thing will work. Yeah, it's convert both, so both for you lah, automatically. Yeah. So you have a break first. Then we start at about 10 minutes time. Then 9:30 we'll cover the rest of it by 9:30. Jackson, the library for JSON conversion, object returning array list or consuming objects, returning objects. Because right now the out of the box Java is just plain text only. It doesn't do much for you. That's why you mentioned the modern frameworks. This JSON conversion is already built in. You don't need to like import a library even to go and enable it. Recently, Yeah. Mm. The loopback is server side, right? API. Looking just simple. Yeah. Right. Mm, mm, mm. Yeah, normally. Oh shit, that is like configuring something then coding something, right? Yeah. Oh, your server, right? Server, you need to open the view, show view first, and look for others, right? Type in server. So once you show the view, right? So, so okay, so if click you expand this, you can see that okay, it's there already. But there's a republish means you make changes, right? You update the server. So click right click, choose publish. Publish will you deploy the. Okay. I would suggest removing first. Remove first. See. Okay. So then we'll clean. Then after the add and remove. This. And deploy the found by ah zip file again. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was no, I don't install it. I thought got issue with the zip file. Invalid LLC is a zip file problem. That's what. Oh, okay. Okay, what's your namespace? Com weather resource right? Okay, in the XML, this one must follow. So com follow this name, then dot resources. Okay, then followed by the name of this one, weather application. Dot weather application. This name not mentioned, that's why it's okay, yeah, then save it, then we publish. Because it's complaining that cannot find that class. Take it, remove, stop first, then remove it, then publish. Remove first. And remove. Right click, and remove. And choose and remove. Okay, then you do a clean. Okay, now add in the. Okay, wait first. You auto start. Yeah, can already. Now you can use Postman to test. Already published, yeah. Synchronize means it's already updated. Mm. Open a new tab. Open new tab. Okay, so you need to access your endpoint. So for you, you can just type http colon slash slash localhost colon 8080 colon 8080 no slash colon 8080 slash weather API. Just follow the exact case also slash API slash stations. I think you must follow the name, exact name. Okay, you get the exact name from to get the exact name here, right? This is the called context. The context will refer to XML. So must is case sensitive one. Must follow the exact name. That means it's W. You put as what? Or AP ah. Okay. Yeah, you put as AP. I'm using the I never mind. So it's as API. Then after that station or you put S ah. Okay. Check out. So right here is the other AP, right? So this is a context. So remember 1, 2, 3, right? First one is this one. Second file is for XML. So XML I put as API, correct? Station. We put as stations. Stations. No, it will be based on the path. Yeah, it will use path. So the two name may not be different, but it's on path. So AP slash API stations. Yeah. Still not found. So okay. So here you server container. This is correct. When you, that one should be correct. Okay, see the error. Successful deploy. But cannot find the section. Okay, go to this one. So you declare com weather API resources. Correct. Another way to find out what the URL like. Okay, another way to find out URL is right click, switch, do a new console. Then later there's a button called list deploy application. It will show you the URL for this application class switch. Wait, Firefox is its own data switch admin console server. So click on this deploy application. Okay, so click on launch. Okay, make it bigger. First you can see the first thing is the so this is your first thing. So all cold weather. What kind of cold weather? Yeah, so you name it based on weather. So you go to postman, change the weather AP to weather. Yeah. Yeah. So for glass fish you must know how to get this first part right. Yeah, and the rest is quite easy. This one is admin console. Right click on the then go glass fish. And there's an admin console and then get this screen. Okay, right, ready? Sorry. Okay, so just now you also there was a problem, right? When I try to return list stations. Okay. So earlier when I try to return list station in this method, if I create array list and return a generic entity of list stations, you'll complain that there's no message body writer. So out of the box, Java will require you to write a class to convert a body, a class, an object to JSON, or the other way around, which will be tedious and a bit difficult. So we're gonna skip writing a program to do that. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna include a library called Jackson. Okay, so to include the Jackson library, go to the POM XML, open that under your dependencies. So you can add the Jackson library. So if you go to the slides, there is a section whereby, yep. So there are two parts of the library to add. One is called Jackson Data Bind, and the other one is Jackson JSON Provider. So I'm gonna add these two items. This is slide 42 into my dependencies here. Yeah. So group ID. So just follow the group ID, the artifact ID here, as well as the version number. So this is 2.8.0. Okay. And the next one would be this guy, conf faster jars. So just add these two items in. Then Maven will download the library you need. 2.8.8. Okay. Okay. So once the libraries are added in, what you need to do is to actually tell Java that you need to use this for conversion. Okay, so in your web INF under web XML, add this parameter into your web XML. So you can copy from this slide 43.
Your classmate behind know that you already started or not? I think they don't know. Yeah.
Oh, hello. So are you following or will
They
you be
know
able to
that you
follow?
started already.
No, they
don't
start
know,
their own
yeah.
class. Okay.
Yeah, very distracting.
Okay, never mind. So okay, go to web XML. So what we have from slide 43 is this initialize parameter. So what these parameters do is to tell Jersey to not use its own information to try to decrypt what you need to convert. So it says disable meta info services lookup. Okay, so let's take this initialization parameter, paste it. Where to paste it in? In here, the first part in servlet. So notice that there's an initialize parameter here already for weather application. After that line, enter this next initialization parameter.
Under the servlet.
So inside the first servlet, after the first set of initialized parameter, put your own set in.
Okay, then above the load on.
Yeah, above the load on startup. Okay. Okay. So to include the Jackson is not that straightforward to just use a library. You have to create a class called a feature class. So this feature class we can conveniently name it as my Jackson feature. So you can put it under the package. So let me go to my class here. So under resources, I'll just create a new class. call it my Jackson feature. Okay, so why do we create a class here is because in the class, then we tell Java to, oh, please follow certain configuration settings in converting the JSON to the data to JSON. So here you can actually do some things like control how the object is to be represented in JSON in some formatting rules. So here we need to import a few things. So you can take from slide 45, there are 5 import lines. You can copy those 5 import lines, then paste it just after the package. Okay. So the 5 import lines here, so one is feature context. Okay. As for this one, it's downloading. So this thing has to implement, so this is a line inside here. It has to implement feature. You can take this whole thing, this whole line here, and replace where you have your code public class my Jackson feature. So just replace this part here. Okay, a couple of complaints. We save them. Okay, so at this point, you probably have one underline red here under this. So it's, if you mouse over, it will tell you why is there a so-called error. So the text the type Jackson my Jackson feature must implement the inherited abstract method feature. So when the Java class implements a abstract class, it's saying that the abstract class has some methods that you need to actually write. So if you don't write the method, it will tell you that your class is not complete. So it's forcing you to write the method. So what the few methods we have, you can take from slide 47. So there are 2 methods here. Okay, one is so you need to copy this over, then just paste it after the first private static main, private static final. Just put a new line. Okay. Okay. So once you put the 2 lines in, the underlining red in your class will disappear. So the two methods that you must implement because you're using abstract feature will be Jackson JXB JSON provider and a configure method. So what it does here, okay, so I'll explain what these lines do. The first one, object mapper. So object mapper allows you to change the way an object's JSON is to be represented. In this case, is looking specifically at the dates. So look at this thing called serialization feature, write dates as timestamp. So write dates as timestamp is one of the dates conversion is one of the common challenges in programming. For example, can you represent date in year followed by month and day? Sometimes people want to represent it by day, month, and year. Or do you include the hours? Do you include the seconds and the milliseconds? Or do you include time zones, the GMT offsets? So when we try to tackle these issues, we also have a standard of dates called ISO date timestamp formats. So ISO date timestamp format will require to have the year followed by a dash line, then the month, the date, then the T followed by the hour, minute, seconds, and then followed by the decimal place 3 digits of the milliseconds. And you also add on the time zone, the time offset. So another way of representing date time is we call it timestamp. So timestamp basically is a number of milliseconds from the time of epoch. So the time of epoch is basically a marked time in all computers. So all computers recognize this time whereby so-called their time started, which is 1970, 28th of January or something like that. Okay, so if I go to time epoch, 1st of January 1970. So all computers have this timestamp, universal timestamp. So when a computer calculates time, they need to take it from a beginning point. So the beginning point for all computers now is 1st of January 1970. So when we say we want to have a timestamp doesn't have year, doesn't have date or month. It just gives you a number of milliseconds since this date. Okay, which also will raise a next interesting question. Everybody remember Y2K, right? The computer run out of space, so the two digits become 00, time reset. This one will also run out of space one day, and the date will reset back to 1970, 1st January. Okay, but this will take longer because the space allocated for this is integer space. So it will take this amount of seconds to finish, which will happen on 19 January 2038. So all computers by 19 January 2038, the time will be reset to 1st of January 1970 if the system is not upgraded. Okay, so this is the year 2038 problem now, not Y2K. Right? So this is another way of getting time. So they say the best way of getting time is to get timestamp, the most accurate. Okay, then from there you do a back conversion to time zone and date, time, and month and year. Okay, so this is the importance here. The other two methods are basically just the standard methods to set this mapper into the providers. Okay, so once this part is done, I think that we can actually return. Okay, one more final thing is to actually register this class in the resource config. So you have the class here, you know it exists, but it's not been registered. So to register this class, just you could go to weather application Java, type in register. I think it's my Jackson feature.class. Okay, so it's a method called register that exists inside resource config. Then you key in the parameter my Jackson feature.class. So it's like telling resource config that it's going to use this class in the application. And I believe, yeah. Okay, so now we've done this part of registering the Jackson feature, which will enable you to convert object to JSON. We go back to the station Java. So at this place where we wanted to return the station as a list, okay, let's republish the web service to Glassfish and then test the first method. Okay, so I need to also update this to producers JSON. So if I come back to the very first method of get station, so previously we had a get station that was return all stations, right? Text. So now I'm gonna call get station the return data. So now if I could call the get all stations, no more error 500, but notice what is returned is a square bracket. So the square bracket basically means an empty array. So if I were to, let's say, add stations, right? I add an object in. So let's say I'll add Red Hill, okay? Then maybe add so let me just add some simple data in, like Red Hill and Tampines Station. Let me publish. So when you keep the database part, right, this is where your database will give you the list, either list of text or list of objects. And when I do a call, yeah, you can see that my two values right here at Tampines appears in the list array. So without the message body writer, what you're losing out is you can't return structured data like this. But when you have a JSON conversion, you can actually return an array list of string, array list of even objects back to as JSON. So that it becomes structured data that's easier for your Android app to process. So going forward, we'll definitely be using the Jackson feature to convert any return in data to JSON so that Android can consume it. But also when your Android, if you want to try it out, you can also use a JSON conversion class like Jackson to convert the JSON to an object you can use inside your Android app. So right now what I show you is one is out, right? Data going out. I'll show you data going in. So to show you data going in, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a class, a custom class. So it's not a string, it's not a number. So I'm going to put under this in maybe called models. So I'm going to create a class called station model. Okay. So the station model would be something that represents an actual station that we see today. For example, it has a name, and then it has a address, and maybe for the fun of it, capacity. Okay. So assuming these three properties, name, address, and capacity, are some of the attributes for a station model. So what I'm going to do is when I add a station, I'm going to send these three information into the resource, into my station resource. So this is my previous add station. I'll comment it off. I'll write a new version for this. So now I will have a new version of add station that will receive basically a station model. So I call this a new station, right? This will also be handled with a post, okay? But it will, instead of consuming a text plain, it will consume an application JSON. So I'm going to send this station model as a JSON body to this endpoint. Now right now it's complaining it can't find it, so I need to import it on the top, right? Okay. So I'm going to basically, because I don't have database, I'll just take it in and then just show it out. Okay. So I'm going to return it through the entity. Okay, let's see if I can just throw it in like this. Try see whether I can just throw it like this. Okay, so station model. So this is the new station. So my station model has name, capacity, and address. Name, address. So let me republish and then go to Postman. So in Postman, take my post method and duplicate this guy. Okay. So now my post method, I'm going to send a body, but no longer text. Okay. Take this away. Choose application JSON. Okay. So let me refer to my model. So my model has name, address, capacity. So now it's you practice on JSON. What is its JSON representation? So it should look like this. Over. So this is my JSON representation of this object. Same attributes. Okay, so I think it should be published already. So now I do a send. Let's see what happens. Oh, internal server error. Okay, so I wonder what happened. Probably had to do with yeah. Okay. So what did I do just now that was illegal? Okay, I return a station directly like this. Well, let's maybe not do that. Let's say I return. Maybe I need to do this first. Okay. So maybe I also need to put new generic entity, which is a station model. Pass this in. Okay. So the generic entity is something you will see more and more often that will use wrapping your objects for sending it to the response. So we publish, we send this guy. Yeah. So now my response. So this is my input. This is my response here. So what we did is, so now that we have a Jackson, you can consume a JSON object. So you can construct a JSON object no matter how complicated it is, and then you can still consume it here as a parameter. At the same time, you can also return an object as a JSON now. So it will help you very much when you need to send complicated data in, not just text plain data. So in your assignment 2, you have basically most of your response will be JSON or XML, or most, and a lot of your inputs will also be in JSON as well. Okay, so this concludes the practical today. So what have we covered today? We covered your basic methods, find your 4 basic methods, play with some parameters. We learned that we need to use a library for converting objects to JSON and vice versa, whether we use it as a parameter or output. So from next lesson onwards, we'll be doing a lot more on the labs, how we can pull data in and how we can manipulate data here. Then very soon we'll go into the database part where Jinchi can actually store the data, persist in database. Yep. So along the way, pay attention to how you're going to structure the packages. Like I don't keep everything in one place, right? So okay, so I'll zip up this Adder API. I'll upload to the learning resources, the backboard, as well as the video for screen capture here. Yes, the video of the coding here. Okay. So anyone have any questions on? Okay, so those are code samples also. So you can refer to those code samples for let's say a bit of your own practical if you want. So the 2 zip files we have example chat API. So there's some basic implementation. Then there's a part 2. Yeah. So this happened with last class. So I did a part 1 code halfway, finished the part, then upload the part 2. Okay, there's a practical question here in the text file. Okay, so you can try this adventurous thing on your own. So given there are there are 2 different items here, right? So look at this. Try it on your own. How you're gonna write these 2 methods in the weather API? What they have to do, what this has to do, right, is to do with this concept called paging. Okay. I will explain in the next lesson what is pagination with this example. So it's also in the text file. So next lesson we'll run through this practical question. Try on your own and gather what it means with do paging, what is query parameters, and then cover today. Okay, do a bit of googling, and then next class I will go through this logic for pagination. Okay. What API connect? The key part of the assignment, right? Hmm. Okay, so that is in regards to the question in the assignment. What you need to do. The specification is to exercise the ability to collect requirements and write down what you need to develop. It's like a to-do list. Okay, let me show you this assignment. I'll also show you last year's student assignments. Okay. So last year they did a topic on Mars Explorer, which is weather machines. Okay. So this is an example of one of the students. Okay. What is submitted for his API specifications. So of course the question and the services required, the schema, okay, example, and then the actual document. So in the actual document, what he did was that in here, he listed down each of the endpoints. What method was it using? Post, what's the URL for the endpoint? Will it need any authorization, authentication? What kind of authentication? What kind of data is expected to be sent in the request? What's the example of the request data sample? What are the responses? So this is how, so when he knows that, okay, for this endpoint, call add a MEM, okay, a machine, right? It's going to be a post. The URL path, I will set it as v1m, MEM. It's going to expect this JSON structure. Means I need to create a Java class that has similar or the same attributes, right? Then when it adds successfully, you return this structure, ID3. Or if failed because something went wrong, you return this because of a certain scenario. Okay, or when a request comes in that's not authenticated, you return this message. Then for the next endpoint, updating a machine, okay, method put the URL with this, the ID, the parameter, what does it mean? ID means the unique identifier. So you explain. So you're explaining yourself, if I'm going to make this endpoint or this web service, I need to do as a put method. I will have the URL path like that. I will have the parameters like this. Each parameter will mean this, it mean that. I would expect a body like that, and I will return different response based on different situation. So you have 9 of this.
Authorization is needed.
Some will be needed. I will run through. I will go through a lesson on authorization. So you understand the concept. Just put into the paper here. When come back from holidays, you will practice one lab session on implementing authorization. So authentication, username, password, different authentication in web services. How you use the database to check username, password also. How you use this thing called tokens. So like what he's done, he's for every method he lists, he uses the box for every method and lists down as much information about the method as possible. So this is the expectation for assignment 1. Coding, yeah. Yeah, like this one. So this is like example of getting a list. Then he have like, if you get a list, you need to page it because maybe there's like thousands of machines, you don't return 1,000, right? Then you need to page it by, first page 10 record. Then you let the user be able to send parameters like how many do you want to retrieve every time, which page do you want to retrieve from. So then you see that the URL has all these parameters there. Yeah. So all these are considered part of the thing. Then explain, page is a parameter, it means this. Page size, it means this. Then he gives a number range 10 to 50. So page size user can the app cannot expect more than 50 in the page size. So maybe something will happen when that happens. Then the response, how it looks like. So you're trying to envision as much of your data as possible. Not like your Android app where you try to think of how it looks in terms of look and feel. Here you think of how your data looks like. So that's why everything is in JSON. Like going in JSON, coming out JSON. Okay, I'm going to return this information. I'm going to need that information in there. Okay. Or what class situation. So that's why I explain what you're doing here is writing what you want to do in your program, in your coding. So you plan out what you want to do in your coding by writing out the requirement first. Then when you code, you can look at this thing. Oh, I want to do a post. The path is like this. Okay, then I will return and will get data there. So when you write this out, fair bit half of your work is done because you already know what you're going to do. Then the coding is just execution, testing, and making sure it works. So do you all want this as a sample?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll create this as a sample for everyone and upload to Blackboard because I need to PDF this guy.
Blackboard you find it under this one will be under your the link you going to share with in WhatsApp.
Yeah, I'll share the link, the direct link in WhatsApp. I'll most likely put under assignment 1 here, the folder as a sample. Mm. Okay, you see the square, red square, it means there's an error in the syntax. So you know that this file has error, right? Now you look at the right side. There's a red square here, there's a red square here. Click on this red square, click here. So your error is coming from here. Mouse over. So change your citation to array list. Okay. So what happens here is that your type is declared as list, but then you initialize the array list. So that itself is the issue. Array list here. Yeah, the new array list. So now there's no error, right? No more red color there. Save it first. You need to save it now. Save then you change. Jackson feature, right? Okay, here got a lot of stuff. Oh, okay. Okay, your Palm XML. Palm XML. You add the dependency. Add already for the check. Go to add already. I think couldn't download. Here seeing the red color dot here. Okay. Okay. So all the red color marks here is that you cannot find the library. You cannot find the library is because okay. Yeah, one key one having a lot of bubble. Okay, so when you normally add this in data file, let me check the detail. It cannot download properly. Okay, here update feature. Force it to update the libraries again. The Java file. Like here is it? This one you click on source, then you click on new to edit. New class. Yeah, then you change accordingly. So that one you call the class is under this class is under this namespace com whether if you have models. Whether if you have dot models. Okay, so I separate basically I have what I eventually want to achieve is I have a package for all the web services, the handling the endpoint, a package for all the objects. Then one more package later for database, one more package for the logic. So I separate these different packages. So this model will be for all the objects like station, can be maybe like data. Okay, so the problem here, right? So the Jackson is alerting because what happening is that a lot of the libraries are not being downloaded. Like this one is not being downloaded yet. So I don't know why. If I go to the Palm XML, let's say I remove this one first. Because I remember your laptop keep on the last time it was a corrupted zip file, right? So paste in. So it will start to download. Go back here. Says hmm? uh, not Eclipse. It will be web services, but depending on what you're going to use in the backend. If you're going to use Java, maybe it's written in Eclipse, maybe using the Jersey. Yeah, but if you're using non-Java, it will be other classes, other libraries. Not really. Not necessary. Can be Python, C Sharp, PHP, Node.js also. So there's a lot of languages that support web services. Why are we in Java here? Because there's okay, there's a restriction on school. !aiyo! Again, it's all corrupted library. This one definitely not all this.
No. Yeah. But do you want to see style is
We'll have a seal version problem.
Yeah, I know. I know. I don't myself. Bye bye. OK 那看了可以看了。OK 了。OK 一下。
Oh, open in here. Yeah. Then gonna finish then oh, you got end task. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Because it's downloading a zip file. So if you cut out the zip file, right, the file will save, but then the file will be complete. Okay. Okay, now it's okay already. Yeah, let it download, finish. Yeah, okay. Okay, this is the problem in Eclipse. The file will download. Sometimes if you not can hold the network down or level navigate properly, the file. So the zip file very bad. The zip file if it's half right, it will still save. It's not if it's half right, it will throw away. So when it still save, even though it's half, it will have an error because it's not complete.
It's not okay lah.
Then you will say you can try.
Okay is okay, but it's not okay. Okay, but not okay lah.
Mm. Mm.
The postman lah, the postman thing. Postman,
Okay.
postman
So
is to
it won't save inside here, but this is to contain to data to bring in and to send out. So I can use this to as an add station by sending this structure, right? Sending this structure in JSON. Not yet, because you need database. So this one in the future you will save it. So now you just say now you just learn how to get the different information, whether it's string or like this kind of format.
the one that to test whether got the sir okay but not okay. It's okay but not okay. I don't know what is okay or not okay.
I see. Okay, not okay.
It got okay problem.
The okay cannot be okay. Small k.
The okay become not okay.
Small k also.
Small k.
Yeah. Yeah, save it. But you after okay is a dot build on. You must also include a dot build after okay.
Dot build ah.
So okay. So you see right, after my okay right, there's always a build.
Oh, behind there's the dot build
to complete the statement.
What dot build ah?
No, after the bracket. So okay dot build is the basic. Like for example okay right, then I pass in the whatever, then dot build. Yeah. Correct like that. But the okay is of course small k.
Okay, but I double slash.
No, double slash. No need. The slash is for commenting.
Yeah, I should not have double slash.
Sure, double slash.
That means I should delete everything.
Yeah. So go all the way back to the response. Okay, back. Two more. So okay is a method. Then save it.
Then it's okay.
Yeah.
Then this one okay.
This is correct, right? That should be correct.
This is okay.
I thought got underscore line. Wait. Put your mouse over. You will see you mouse over the red okay word, right? You will see the message. Okay, thank you. Go back to the top. When you import response, right? Oh, take this one.
No, right.
No, not right. Okay, take it out. So you just be .rs.star. Then you don't need this. The first five no need. The star cover the five.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay, I'm everything. Okay. This first one no need lah.
First five no need. Then this response is wrong. Not this one. The response class right is actually this is the response. This is correct library. This one is the correct Java X.
So this one should delete away.
Yes. Because you use the wrong library, that's why I complain. The response don't have okay.
So I should Java this one as response call. rs dot
call dot response. Yes.
Dot call core.
Dot response.
Yeah. And then then should be okay. Then I should save.
Yeah.
Save. Okay. Then but still red this one.
Okay, this one red is because the syntax is wrong again. The one take away.
Delete away.
Yeah, this one. Because on top is your package.
Yes.
Import then after your public class. Public class cannot be before the import.
Okay, public class should be below of the import.
Correct.
So should be okay, save again. Oh, all gone already. So next so sir, I have to go to the glassfish, go to the data source and explorer.
No, server, yeah, glassfish.
Server,
And right click, right click on glassfish, and then add and remove,
and remove.
and
So
add your weather inside. That one can take out.
remove the this one
Yeah,
first.
remove the one, then add the weather.
Add the weather in.
Click add, and finish.
Then I run the thing.
Yes, and run again.
Run.
Actually, you can run from there.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, it's the same. It's okay.
So
So you click on the glassfish, you see the status. Starting. Once it's okay, you can start it. You can start it.
then now I can open the postman.
Now the purpose is to prepare lah, because later you will,
Okay.
the state will turn to started.
So I go to postman. So sorry. Because I already try my best to catch up already, you know. That's why a lot of error, but I try my best already. But I don't want to stop you lah, because otherwise it's unfair the rest.
Okay.
So the whole this one is to this whole the standard this one is right one. So I have to close all the close this one. Close them.
Cancel. Don't save. Click don't save.
Okay. So check whether it's started. So I have to go there. Key on the standard one. So backslash.
Yes.
Backslash.
Okay, then you must find out where your application in glassfish start from. So you must go back to here, right? So started, right click, then choose glassfish. There's a admin console. So here to find out, where's my application on glassfish server? So they give you the first part of the URL, the path.
Well, it's not 4848.
It's glassfish own address.
Okay.
Their own port. Okay, then you click on list deployed. So list deployed, you see your inside there. Okay, scroll down.
Why got master?
Yeah. How come you got mask on inside?
Deploy. Back.
Not so weird. I got two with that. This one should be the third one. Because some of the students also. Right? Okay, this one should be.
Mask is yours, right? That's not the. That's not the class one.
The class one, but it's
that's
not
the assignment one.
The mask is the assignment one version.
Mask not right.
Clean go clean first. Yeah, because sometimes the old file still stays inside there. Funny how the mask is there. Okay, so I in, right? Wait for this one. Eh?
What all deploy?
How come How come still mask?
And my food gram is there.
Yeah lor.
Thought already remove. Need to save.
No need you already saved just now, right? How come
my file folder is under. No, right lah. I make sure it's different.
Yeah lor. Actually, let me move. 那个没有在里面了。stop first come on down. For extra.
If server start, probably should change immediately, right? Yeah, change immediately.
Okay. Now we can this guy.
Is it whether my weather I never add the API thing? My name no API thing.
You got what? See. I see your code. So this one AWT list. Oh, that shouldn't be this AWT list. Anyway, it's okay, not using it. So here you have Here you don't have the config. This
I
one still
miss
missing. Yes, this one missing the section just now. This one missing something.
PDF can copy and paste. No, not PDF. I think the
PowerPoint here you can copy lah. The Jackson task. The application one is under. Okay, application is under here.
move too fast. Start. Start the part.
Here, this one.
Oh yeah.
This is the part missing. We must change that. So the constructor must change the name of the class.
Weather lah.
Yeah, then this one must change to the resource path, which is this path lah. This path lah.
.com weather lah.
So this name must change. This one must change accordingly. After change already, then you must copy this one.
I think I did.
This one I got copy right. You see the web XML. Yeah, correct. So that one, this one must also change something like this one, right? This one actually refers to the namespace here. This one plus this one. So com weather dot add app, then followed by this. Is the full name here.
No, that's the reason
Yeah,
I was sure.
correct. I think this is because of yours. Okay. Apple then never mind. So important is this one must change that to that one. Then the inside the constructor must include.
So the quite sick and then one I can do a home. About there. So this one is com weather app. The other one is what? Com weather app. And the second part will be
this application.
Weather application.
Weather.